is Preely on the Form is Temporary podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Form is Temporary podcast with me, Roberto Hollis, FPL Yellow Army.
And me, Chris Sebastian.
If it was me and I was on a wild card, I probably wouldn't pick a Manchester United midfielder. Saka, he apparently didn't go to training. There will be some weeks where going against Haaland isn't the worst strategy.
That's not this week.
Yeah, definitely not this week, away to Wolves, in my view.
I think with Jota, like you said, he's very consistent.
You've got Carlton Morris. Obviously, Luton have not started the season in very, very good form. They've not scored enough goals. They have conceded in every game. But to be fair to Carlton Morris, he's nailed an asset. And then Julian Alvarez and Haaland against Wolves looks really exciting. And for this week, I'm going to be selling Saka and I'm going to be bringing in Son in. Son is very, very tempting. I'm looking at Trippier this week, to be honest. So Saka out, Son in is against Liverpool. We know how Liverpool play that high line, and it's going to be a game, I think, with goals in that. So I don't mind Son against Liverpool. And finally, Mystic has said, Gordon, throw that into the mix. He is on 4 yellow cards, though. I would just sway away from Lyle Foster. Obviously, Foster does come back for that second game in the double. So if you're thinking he's going to do well against Luton, then maybe he's a single game week asset. But it doesn't make much sense when Burnley have a double. Temporary podcast
with Roberto Hollis and Chris Sebastian.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Form is Temporary podcast. I'm Chris Sebastian.
And I am FPL Yellow Army's Roberto Hollis.
And today we've got a bumper show. We're going to be talking about our FPL sides, how we did in game week 7, and we're also going to be talking about the much controversial topic of VAR.
Hello, and in today's video, sorry about that. In today's video, we're doing an FPL team selection video for game week number 8. As you heard there, on Wednesday, we had our second episode of the new podcast I'm doing with my good mate at uni, Chris. It's called The Form is Temporary podcast on Spotify. Just clearing my throat there. So it's been really good fun so far, the podcast, and I've been really overwhelmed by the support we've received on, Twitter, X, Instagram, etc. So thank you again for everyone resharing and liking and giving a listen, really, because it means a lot. And thanks to all those that send in their listener questions, responding to my tweet on a Sunday night, responding to Chris's Instagram post usually on around the same time. So really means a lot. But don't forget, if you want to join the mini league for the Form is Temporary podcast, you can do just that ahead of the deadline, which is obviously around about 30 minutes or so until that big deadline. So I would say make sure you tune in for my my game week review in the next week. But ultimately, this is about game week 8, isn't it? So you want to get your team into that league before the game week 8 deadline, because the way that the mini league is running for our podcast is it's a head-to-head league. So it's basically you're drawn up against random people in that league, and you have to basically get a number of points, which is more than the opponent, and that will give you 3 points for a win. And then for a draw, it's 1 point each. And then, of course, nothing for a loss. So it's quite an exciting league format. And hopefully we can get as many people in that league as possible. So if you were interested and were thinking, actually, that sounds like a bit of me, the Form is Temporary podcast mini league, well then just think about it and join the mini league, because the code to join that league, I can tell you, is the following: by6iuw. by6iuw. So join that league. And also what we're going to do at the start of this is just show how everyone got on in the league last week. So thanks to those who have already joined. Let's see who we're up against. Actually, funnily enough, I'm up against one of my good mates, Ben, this week, who's also one of the people around at uni for me. So it's a uni mate up against another uni mate. So it'll be an interesting rivalry this weekend. But yeah, do check out the mini league. But yeah, last week, obviously, there were some big results. I played against Barry Clark and I won 41-27. We also had Stefan losing to Ben 68-32. There was other results, including a 75-73 win for Sylvester. Sylvester Kofidise winning against Tosu Gabriel Iola. Don't know if he's in some way connected to the footballer Ayala, but close enough. Also, Thanos, I should say, and not the Thanos from Avengers, I would imagine, unless he's just snapped his fingers and got the FPL points, but it didn't quite work from this time. 61-44 defeat against Joe Root. We also had Finley Smithson with a great week, 46 points, beating Benjamin, who got 28. Also, no FPL, Oliver scored 46, but that was no match for his opponent. George White, 93 points, incredible stuff. And then my co-host, Chris Sebastian, he was up against the average last week and lost 49-41, so unlucky that one. FPL Ullen also beat FPL Baskets 66-46. We had a 70-66 win for Ola Sabomi Peter, Shabby FC, against Jamie Burgoyne. And then we had a 79-50 win for Basel Aga against Swagato Sarkar. So yeah, as I say, join the league and it should be some good fun this season. And we'll, of course, read out the scores each week on the podcast. Make sure you turn on the notification bell because the next podcast will be dropping next Wednesday as usual. So do check it out. We'll be previewing Game Week 9 and talking wildcards because, yes, I'm going to be wildcarding very soon. Not this game week, though, because a lot of managers have been lured into the trap for Game Week 8. Well, I think it's a trap, just because, obviously, it's team dependent, right? If you look like you need it this week, then do it. But to me, there's a lot of players who I'd really want on the Game Week 9 wildcard who this week don't look like they're 100% fit. Now, of course, we could see the likes of Moussa Diaby start for Aston Villa. That's a touch-and-go decision this week. But I definitely think he should be fit by Game Week 9. And that's the sort of player I'd like to have maybe on my wildcard. So I'm going to be doing it Game Week 9. And I do feel the fixtures are quite juicy in Game Week 9 as well. I know that Spurs are facing Luton this week, but I'd already doubled up on the Spurs midfield last week with Son, my transfer in last week, doing the business against Liverpool, which was great to see. And yeah, also, I think when you look at certain players like Ollie Watkins, obviously he's a great long-term asset. Would you sell for Julian Alvarez in Game Week 8? I'm not sure you would. But maybe later on you could get Watkins alongside Erling Haaland. So there's some difficult decisions for FPL managers to make in Game Week 8. But let's look back at my Game Week 7. We'll talk through some of my wildcard thoughts and drafts ahead of Game Week 9. And ultimately, you can see the final wildcard in my next preview video. But also, yeah, we're going to look at a long-term kind of view here and see what our long-term plans are. So, yeah, so... Sorry about that. Apologies. Game Week 7, it was a pretty hard week for a lot of people. As I mentioned, the average was 49. I got 45, which was obviously a red arrow. Frustrating week, really, when you look at it. So if we just show you people, 411 overall points, which, to be honest, I don't think is the worst, because it's been a very tough start to the season for many managers, but I'm still keeping the faith with my squad, at least for this week, because on paper, it might not even need a wild card. We'll get on to how well set up I seem to be, but I just think with fixture swings, and with certain players like, I don't even know at this point, like players like Salah, who obviously is a big question on the wild card, whether or not he's worth that value, but he is just so consistent. I know he didn't get the returns last week against Tottenham, but he should have done for the assist for Luis Diaz. So yeah, it's one of those things. Salah's nailed, he's Mr. Consistent, and a lot of these other midfielders like Fernandes and Rashford, I don't actually own Rashford, just the Bruno train for me, but yeah, they're not delivering, and Salah's just been, it's not been amazing, as they say in that gif or meme. It ain't much, but it's honest work. That's what Salah's doing at the moment. And so I think Salah, he is a lot to pay for, but I'd rather just have another captaincy option. Obviously, Haaland's still a standout every week. He can do it against anyone. But someone as explosive as Salah on his day to have as a captaincy option, I'm quite keen on. So I probably will have Salah on the wild card. The one I'm actually less sure on is Son Heung-min. Now, I've got Son at the moment, as I say, transferred him in last week. And whether or not you captain Son this week away to Luton, obviously it's the early kickoff. We'll get on to that. But going forward, surprisingly enough, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, you know, Son is an absolute must on wildcard. You have to have him going forward. Salah is a bit more of a 50-50 call. It's up to you. But to me, I'm in the other camp. I think Salah going forward is, especially on wildcard, one that I will want. Son, though, not as essential in my view. I mean, Maddison to me is the standout pick for Tottenham still. Despite Son's recent returns, we're just not always sure Son will start as a number 9 every week. Obviously, he did against Burnley, got the hat-trick. Did against Liverpool, scored. Obviously, Richarlison is there. He's not going to start every week, Richarlison. But sometimes he will fill into that number 9 spot. And so Son is less effective. And I know Son is quality. We know that. But, you know, as they say, class is permanent. The form is temporary. Yeah, I see what I did there. But yeah, there's been some frustrating games for Son this season. But yeah, I was happy to jump on him at the right time. It's just whether or not, you know, the double up of Spurs midfield is too much. Because it kind of stops you from going for the likes of Maddison if you have Son there as well. And to fit in Salah alongside Haaland. And if you maybe want Trippier, it's really hard in a wild card. So I would say it's probably a choice between Son and Salah. And to me, I'm leaning Salah at the moment. Maybe it's just long-term fixtures looking really good for Liverpool. Certainly, coming up, they've got obviously Forest and Luton and things. But so have Tottenham obviously this week. So it's a close one for sure. So game week 7, 45 points. I took a -4. As I mentioned, Son came in. I have to admit, Saka did come out, and that was a mistake on my part. I was watching the FPL Juice stream. They were fantastic yet again on the Juiceception stream they do, where they jump onto little content creators. And yeah, shout out to FPL Juice. They're a fantastic channel. And they had some great guests on again. Delia and FPL Lucky Plucker is always brilliant as well. And also Yelena. I think Yelena was great as well. So there was some really good people on. I think also there was Semi Casual on. So yeah, some really good people in the midweek show as well. But yes, Delia basically mentioned that AFTV thought Saka was benched, and so when I heard that, I just jumped at the chance because I thought, oh, this might be info ahead of the curve, and I might be winning against other FPL managers that still are unsure about Saka. And admittedly, the news came in at 59 past, so I should have really stuck to my guns because I was pretty set on keeping Saka if we hadn't heard any more news. And when it's AFTV, I probably should have thought, is that the most reliable source? But literally, as I clicked off the video to make the transfer and confirmed it, I watched the stream back, and literally that moment they said, AFTV, sorry, it's not a reliable source. So it's unfortunate timing from me, and you know, fair enough, I got that wrong. So I'll hold up my hands. But you know what? Saka did get a goal. However, I was very lucky, and you know, it worked out in the end because he actually had 2 penalties he could have taken to get the hat-trick, and yeah, only got the 9-pointer in the end with that early goal. And then went off injured, right? And also got injured in the Champions League. So maybe it's worked in my favour, that one. Especially with, you know, Son hopefully going to do well against Luton this week. He was a player I already wanted. Obviously, whether he'll be a long-term player, as I say, it's a bit of a debate on the wild card. But I think certainly for Luton, I wanted him. So I'm happy with that transfer. I know that Son ended up getting less than Saka just by 2 points. But it's 2 points at the end of the day. Still nice to see that Son goal. You know, he's so attacking against Liverpool, especially teams that play that high line. So that was a really good long-term move. But then, of course, we had Chilwell, who was injured. So he came out for Trippier, and that really went well for the short term. Nice 12-pointer from Kieran Trippier against Burnley. So yeah, the -4 in the end was very successful. Finishing on a kind of 6-point gain with the -4, so very happy with that. 45 points. Gaming rank looking pretty stinky, but as I say, it was a tough week for many. In goal, we had Andre Onana. Now, Onana for me is just the biggest player in terms of who I want to get out when I wildcard. Like, just get rid of any United assets. Honestly, they are so bad. And those that think, oh, if I wildcard in a couple because they've got great fixtures, yes, granted, but this situation we had with Chelsea a few weeks ago where they had great fixtures, but we just weren't looking at the form. And, you know, sometimes form versus fixtures is the classic debate, but sometimes you just got to think cut ends and think this team is not going to get points regardless of who they're playing. You know, Sheffield United, for instance, in Game Week 9, Would I be surprised if Sheffield United scored? Probably not. That's how bad United have been defensively. And Onana, has just not got the points we expected from that. United defence has had a lot of injuries, the likes of Luke Shaw, obviously Martinez early on a few weeks ago, and they've not really had enough coverage there. But Onana's been really frustrating, making mistakes a lot of games, and it was a very, very annoying. I mean, it's an unsavable shot really from Joachim Andersen. Really fantastic finish from the Palace defender. He's actually popped up with a few points this season, so he's been a good pick. But we'll get on to Palace defenders in a second. Onana, what an absolute troll, and can't wait to get him out on wildcard. But while he has good fixtures, it's kind of like you had to hold him. Fabian Schär. Now, Fabian Schär for me was an unfortunate one in Game Week 6. I brought him in, Newcastle win 8-0, and he was the only defender to not get an attacking return. So I felt hard done by there. But this is why patience sometimes pays off with FPL, because the next week, Botman, who a lot of people brought in Game Week 7, doesn't play, out for about a month. So that is a big blow for those that owned Botman. Also, those that owned Estupiñán, if they played Botman and benched Estupiñán, he came in for the -2. So, really happy with Fabian Schär. Great to see that clean sheet and the bonus point as well to top it off. So, really happy with him. And obviously, his goal threat is great. He scored a fantastic goal in the Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain. So, going forward, do I need the double up? Maybe not, but Fabian Schär, I think, is a very good value at 5 million. Then Estupiñán, -2. This was a frustrating one. Obviously, we couldn't have foreseen that Villa would score 6 in the end. But Estupiñán to go off, score an own goal, get subbed off at half-time. Obviously, it did actually limit the damage with the amount of goals Brighton conceded. But in the end, it was still a terrible, terrible thing to see. And I tweeted out, actually, about Estupiñán just before the game kicked off. And FPL Images that precede unfortunate events, of course, tweeted my tweet. I did actually at them just because sometimes if I have made a mistake, I'll hold my hands up and I'll let people know. But it was still not ideal that I'd made that call when I became a bit of a meme. But anyway, Estupiñán, I thought he would cook. I thought all those benches would pay. And to be fair, some of the benches did pay with Botman coming not playing and Estupiñán making them pay with minus points. But really unfortunate. And now he's out for about a month as well, just like Botman. So not good for those Estupiñán owners looking to replace him this week. Trippier, 12-pointer. Really nice haul for Kieran Trippier, as I mentioned. Got the assist. It was a bit lucky with the tackle on a Burnley player to lead to that Almiron stunner. But Trippier is just so good for those bonus points. That's why we own him. 3 bonus points. Lovely stuff. Midfield then. This was a misfiring midfield. Last week it was a fantastic midfield. Only one player blanked, and that was Brian Mbeumo against Everton. This week, only one player returned, and that was Heung-min Son. So, Mbeumo, we'll start with him. Against Forest, I thought that was a fixture, surely, that they would cash in on goals. Forest, obviously, defensively have not been the best. Maybe they've been a bit better at the City ground, so that was one thing to factor in. But Mbeumo should have had a few penalties in that game. I mean, the first one, the Wissa foul, the foul on Wissa from Turner, it was absolutely stone cold penalty, and they ignored it for some reason. And then there was also some handball shouts in there as well. The likes of Willy Bolly blocking it with his hand, I think. So really unfortunate for Mbeumo to not get a penalty in that game. But also just he had moments where he got into the box, but his touch let him down. He made good runs, but it just didn't work out for Brian. So it's really frustrating. He's one that I'd want to sell pretty soon. But with Manchester United on the horizon, maybe he could return in that game. It's just United have been so poor. So I could see it. He did score in that big win against United last season. So we'll have to see. But certainly on the wild card, I'd probably move away because Brentford have not been doing well. Talking not doing well, Bruno Fernandes, I mean, he has done okay for me in terms of, getting some returns this season. Obviously got the 12-pointer against Forest, 10-pointer against Burnley. But United as a team are just not investable at all. And Fernandes has actually done a bit better than Rashford, so that was an effective ownership call I made to go without Rashford, and it's paid off for sure. But I would also say that Fernandes, the positions he's taking up in the game is just not ideal. I mean, you had that game against Brighton that he was playing basically at centre-back, and Mbeumo, to be fair, has also had those positional problems playing at right wing back at times for Brentford, with the Rico Henry, out injured. But it's not ideal at all, is it? So we have to just think maybe it's time to just get rid and cut our losses with the Manchester United midfield, because otherwise, what are we doing? Mitoma, this was a frustrating one. I thought away to Villa, obviously not the best of fixtures, but Villa have not been every single week perfect defensively. So I thought, yeah, Brighton would score. They did score, but Mitoma didn't get involved because, it was a Ansu Fati goal. So yeah, the wrong Brighton midfielder yet again, and Pedro obviously off the bench still getting the returns. So yeah, Mitoma, is it one of those things with Mitoma? He's a fantastic player on the eye test, but he often, just doesn't quite get the hauls we expect. He did well in game week 2 away to Wolves, but he does often get the assist or one assist in a 4-1 win, for instance. So frustrating player to own, but great on the eye, and you think going forward he's still, one of the best cheap midfielders in the game, along with the likes of, Diaby, for instance. So I think Mitoma is very unlucky, and to get the yellow card was a shame. Maddison, I thought he would cook, to be honest, against Liverpool. I thought he would get a lot of attacking, chances. He was kind of doing a bit of the assist against Liverpool. Did it for the first goal, certainly. Scored by Son, but I'll take it for Son. But Maddison, yeah, he was really creative, and he was creating the chance that led to the assist. So that's at least encouraging. But yeah, Maddison's a long-term hold. Wouldn't be concerned by that blank because, yeah, he's just looked so threatening in so many games this season. So yeah, still happy with Maddison. And then Son, yeah, look, really happy to see him get that goal. Legend Son Heung-min, and will he be the captaincy pick for game week 8? We'll have to see. Moving on to the forward line, Man City boys, Julian Alvarez, yet again my little pick of the season probably so far. Double game week 7. A lot of people bring in the likes of Morris. Obviously, he only just outscored Alvarez, but for a long-term period, Alvarez has been great for me since game week 4. 9.8% owned. And in that time, he's got a 9-pointer, a 14-pointer, and now this week an 8-pointer. Fantastic free kick. And yeah, he's one on a wild card that's a tricky decision because fixtures aren't great for City coming up, and he is just fixture-proof probably. But with likes Watkins having great fixtures and just scoring a hat-trick, it makes it a bit of a headache. So yeah, what a player. And then of course Haaland with the blank. Didn't expect that away to Wolves, but City just weren't massively at their best in that game. I think Haaland is still absolutely essential. I don't see why you should sell him this week. I've seen some content creators, shout out to FPL Raptor, play at your own game, as they say on Planet FPL. But yeah, Haaland, for me, he's not leaving my team. Maybe some other captaincy contenders, but Haaland still can do anything against anyone. Then the bench, we've got Matt Turner, 3 points. I mean, of course, he outscores Onana, classic. Udogie, 1-pointer. Yeah, I'm glad I benched him against Liverpool, but yeah, obviously Stupinian was just frustrating. And then Mark Gay. Mark Gay was even more frustrating. I thought, last week when I benched Gay, I think he had Fulham at home. That was probably a bit of a mistake because I played Chilwell over him. This week, though, on paper, away to Manchester United, I thought United would score at least one. So that was unfortunate. I couldn't have really done a lot about that. And then Gay keeps picking up these bonus points when he's on my bench. So, been frustrating. I mean, Gay, for me, game week 1 was my big differential. Clean sheet in the first week when there wasn't many clean sheets. But since then, yeah, it's been a bit frustrating knowing when to play him because he's not got much goal threat and Palace are a bit up and down defensively. But yeah, fair enough. Got the returns in game week 7. And then, of course, Mubama does not play. So, yeah, interesting game week. Not ideal stuff. But we move on to game week 8. Before we do move on to my game week 8 team selection, let's have a quick look at what the mini league is looking like for FPL Yellow Army's Loyal Legion. So thanks again for all those that have joined the league. It really does mean a lot to see everyone's support and everyone joining the league. So yeah, this is the current standings for the mini league. Let's just get our screen back up. There we go. So yeah, overall, the top manager at the moment is Neil Eaton, and he, funnily enough, is also the manager of the month for September. So congratulations from Neil. He had a great game week in game week 7, 79 points, but also a great month in September. So fair play to you, Neil. I put out a tweet and an Instagram post about that. We also had Ellie Pullen having a very good game week 7. She's up there along with Ethan, Zane, Ashley Valentin, who was number 1 for so many weeks, and now his top table position's been dethroned. We've also got Angus Ross, Yusuf Achmat, I should say, T Hazelwood, Real Madrid, and of course Micah Deichmeister. So yeah, some great names in there. Thanks for all those that have joined the mini league. A few people, dropping down a little bit, but, it's early days, obviously. I've not done too well at the start of this season, ranked at around the 1 million or something. So yeah, it's been a bit of a cagey start to the season, but as I say, trust the process. It will go well, and I think on paper my team is still looking good. So talking about my team on paper, let's just, before we do give my final Game Week 9 team selection, Game Week 8 team selection, let's look ahead to Game Week 9 and see some wildcard drafts and possible future transfers. So we just show this little draft here. Yeah, we've got some wildcard drafts to talk to you about, because obviously Game Week 9 is the week I'm looking to do it. I don't think it's an awful week to do it in Game Week 8, but as I mentioned, with the international break, it does help. You know, you could transfer in players on your wildcard in Game Week 8 that are fit and firing, ready to go. For instance, someone like a Salah. But then if he gets injured in Game Week 8, then you've just transferred in someone that, okay, he might recover but in the international break, but there's not every chance that he will do that, depending on the severity of the injury. So I think ultimately, yeah, it does make it a tricky one, doing it just before an international break, because you could be stuck with players you then have to sell if they get injured. So then I feel that going the week after an international break just leaves you that flexibility to then check, is the RB going to be fit for Game Week 9? We'll have to see. Is he going to be fit for this week? Possibly, but those sort of picks. And Gordon obviously suspended, so that's why he's in there, because by Game Week 9 he will be fit and firing. But that's my first draft for my wild card. So basically, the question for me is to Son or not to Son. That is my question. As I said earlier in the video, I'm more fixed on having Salah than I am Son. So this would be the team I'd be picking if I went for a Son draft. Areola and Turner. Now, I do really kind of want Nick Pope there, because I just think relying on two cheap keepers is not the best strategy usually, because they're not going to get that consistent points over many weeks. They're going to get save points, and that's about it. But with the way clean sheets are going this season, maybe it makes sense to, not use that much money on keepers. Just go Areola and Turner. Now, I'm aware that Turner could well be rotated in coming weeks. Obviously, you've got Vlachodimos coming from Benfica, who's always there ready. So that's one to think about. Areola's, though, been, for me, the best cheap keeper in the FPL season so far. And I wouldn't say one to start every single week, because of course West Ham's fixtures won't be great every week, but certainly as one of your second keepers, he is a must on a wild card, I think. But yeah, it was maybe a possible thing between Johnston and going for someone like Flecken, but they've not been the best in terms of the defence. I don't think, Brentford. So it's a tricky one, but I've got the cheapies there just to save enough value for the rest of the wildcard team. The defence: Matty Cash, Taylor, Byrne, Gabriel and Mitchell. Now, I don't love the defence because I haven't got a Spurs defender in there, and I know their fixtures are really good. Am I convinced by Spurs defensively? Maybe not. They're not going to keep clean sheets every week. Of course, Udogie and Pedro Porro, both very attacking options, but I couldn't quite get to them because I want to leave a bit of money in the bank, and I'll get to that. But I do have Gabriel there, who obviously is a bit cheaper than Udogie, mainly because in Game Week 10, I think it is, that they have a good fixture and then they have nice fixtures to rotate. So I think Arsenal defenders are one that we might want to go on, certainly for that Sheffield United fixture. So Gabriel is just in there for that long-term planning. And Matty Cash for me is a must on wildcard. He's so attacking. He looks so good every single week. And I've actually got a little clip to play you about Matty Cash, which we'll get to a little bit later. But yes, Matty Cash has been fantastic this season. So attacking, got an assist last week again. Taylor is there. I'm aware that there's a chance he doesn't start, but you know what? It's like third player on your bench is not that important, or at least last defender. So he has started the last few, Taylor. He didn't start at the start of the season, but if he is going to be starting, I know Burnley are defensively not great, but you just want a playing cheapie in the defence, and I think Taylor could be that. Then we got Dan Burn, who, to be fair, I'm obviously wanting to have Trippier if possible, but money is not that easy to get around in this team, so I think I have to just go budget with the Newcastle defence. I do want one Newcastle defender in there though, I think, because their fixtures are very nice, and I just back them defensively. The lowest XG conceded, and that was when they had a lot of tough games, and so now they're coming into this favourable run. I can see a few clean sheets, and there will be some double clean sheet wipeouts, of course, for some people, but I think Burn is enough for now. Obviously, I'd love to have Trippier, but I haven't got loads of money, so I've got another draft, I think, with Trippier in, but it's whether or not it's worth sacrificing other parts of the team when you can have Burn, who, when Botman's out for a few weeks now, he will be starting every week. He's actually got a bit of goal threat, as we saw against Sheffield United and against Paris Saint-Germain. So, yeah, maybe Burn could be a good option. Gabriel, as I say, is one to come in, not to playing in Game Week 9, probably away to Chelsea, I think it is. So, yeah, I wouldn't do that, but certainly for a long-term strat, he could be nice. And then Mitchell. Palace, defensively, have been a bit up and down, but their clean sheet chances are looking fairly good. And if I can't get to the Johnston, then I don't mind a bit of Mitchell, because he's quite attacking as a fullback. You know, obviously I've had Mark Gay all this time, and he's got some points, so there's clearly some good reason to invest. I can't quite afford Joachim Andersen with the money I want to leave in the bank, but Mitchell's still a very good option. Midfield, Salah, Diaby, Gordon, Maddison, Son. Maddison and Son on a wild card is tempting. As I said, it's a debate whether you go with Son or not, but in this wildcard draft, I managed to squeeze Son, Maddison and Salah in. That the reason I've done that is because I've got Gordon, who's a bit cheaper, but obviously by Game Week 9 he'll be fit and firing to go with nice fixtures. And then Diaby, obviously, let's wait and see on him if he's fit for Game Week 9, but if he is, he'll be in there. And then Watkins, Haaland, and I've got Mubama there, who obviously is not ideal. I'd rather to have Archer, who's going to be starting games, but just to save a bit of money, I need to have Mubama just leave him on the bench, not an issue. So Watkins and Haaland for me is the optimal two up front. I know Alvarez is tempting, but I can't quite fit him in yet. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. The first draft with Son, 1.2 in the bank. The reason for that is a certain Kaoru Mitoma will be a very tempting option in the coming weeks. So when Brighton's fixtures get better again, I could do Gordon to Mitoma quite easily. So that's quite nice to have that as an option. The other draft I've got without Son, which to be fair is probably more balanced. So that's why I'm kind of maybe tempted a little bit by going for the draft without Son. But it's one of those things, it's a risk. Is it worth paying where Son could be really explosive? But this one has 1 million in the bank, so a little bit less money, but it's gone without Son. However, I can switch Son if I want to by, you know, changing someone like, I don't know, Almiron. If I, take out Salah, for instance. If Salah's not returning as I think he will be, then I can just take him and bring in Saka. Of course, he's got good fixtures coming up as well. So I think Saka, for me, obviously he's currently an injured player at the moment, will be a possible starter for Man City. We'll have to see. But I wouldn't have him at the moment on wildcard for sure. But yeah, for the future, if the fixture's looking good for Arsenal, he could be back if he's fit. But yeah, I've got the same two keepers, Areola and Turner. I just think spend as much, least put money as possible. Then Cash is there again. As I say, I think Cash is a great option. I've got Al Dakil there. Now, whether it's Bayer, whether it's Al Dakil, one of those cheap defenders like Taylor, I don't really mind. It's just, we know at least that Al Dakil for Burnley started every single game and he's very cheap. So he's just set on the bench, but it's a nice, player that will get minutes. Then Gabriel, again, is there just because of future planning. I think he's possibly going to be starting games now more often for Arsenal, and he got the goal for it. And, I know that he started the season a bit of a troll, but I think he will come good, hopefully, with the fixtures. Trippier for me is one that I'm umming and erring on. Obviously, I'd love to own him, but it does mean in this draft not having Son. So it's a tricky one. Trippier is tempting, of course, but you can't have everyone. Pedro Porro. Porro for me is, if you have a bit more money in the bank, which I do have for this team, I can afford Porro over Udogie. In the last one I couldn't. Or actually didn't even have Udogie, I don't think, in the last one. But yeah, my point is, if I have unlimited money, of course I'm picking Porro because he's a bit more attacking at the moment. The only thing with Porro is, of course, the possible rotation with Emerson, but Porro looks first choice at the moment on that side. Then we've got Almiron, Gibbs White. Now these are a bit cheaper options to basically afford me to have Trippier. So yeah, I've gone with Almiron and Gibbs White just because I think Gibbs White could be quite nice. He's on penalties. He's away to Palace this week. All right, not the best of fixtures, but the week I'll be wildcarding home to Luton, and then I can just move on Gibbs White to Mitoma in Game Week 10 because I've got enough money to do that with 1 million in the bank. So I think I quite like that. Attack the Luton fixture in Game Week 9. Obviously, Gibbs White hasn't been a fantastic option generally, but maybe for Luton I can understand it. Almiron, to be fair, Almiron might be back. He might be in that little phase of purple patch like we saw last season. Scored the fantastic goal against Burnley and then scored again in the Champions League. So maybe Almiron, it could be cooking. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I prefer probably him over Gordon, but just for the kind of restraints on budget, I went for Gordon the last one. And then, of course, we've got Diaby again, Maddison again, Salah again, standard stuff. And then Archer is also there. Obviously, got a bit more money to use, so I can get the playing third forward. And then again, Haaland and Watkins for me are my favoured strikers. So that's the two drafts I'm looking at. Son or not to Son, we will have to see come game week 9. But now let's give you my game week selection for game week number 8. So here we go. Game week number 8. Let's look at the team for this match week. In goal, yes, believe it or not, people, we've gone for it. Matt Turner. Now, make yourself a legend, Matt Turner, because we did this a couple of weeks ago. He had a nice juicy fixture, home to Burnley. What did he do? Concedes. Then he had a nice juicy fixture, home to Sheffield United, concedes. And so he's yet to get an away clean sheet, is Matt Turner. So I'm not feeling too confident. In fact, I don't think he's even got one clean sheet for Nottingham Forest so far. So not going into this massively confident, but just got to hope Palace have an off day. Obviously, Edouard was out injured for the Manchester United game. He might well be back for this game, though. So that's a bit of a pain, but we'll have to see if that's definitely going to be the case. Obviously, Palace have not been bad this season. Eze's not been scoring loads of goals, but he, of course, got the assist for the Anderson goal last week. So I'm just hoping for a Forest defensive shutout. We'll have to see. But whether or not that does work out, I think I've got Onana, who's playing a Brentford side that I know haven't been in great form, but if I'm going to back Mbumo, then I'm going to bench Onana. It's as simple as that, really. So, yeah, hopefully Turner can make himself a hero for one last time before a wild card. I might even keep him on the wild card, as I mentioned, if he can make himself a legend, and hopefully he won't get rotated that soon. If so, I'll have to have Onana coming in this week, but I don't think it will happen anytime soon. Matty Cash, now, let me talk to you about Matty Cash. We've been on a journey. So this is my transfer in this week. Matty Cash comes in for a defence that Villa have been okay this season, but it's just Cash is so attacking. He's really, really looking great. He's basically playing as a, almost at the times right wing, because a bit like Chilwell early on in the season, he's taking up really attacking positions. To me, this just makes a lot of sense. Wolves are a team that, yes, they beat Man City last week, but they don't often score goals, and I think Villa, going forward, Cash is one you're going to want. So why not go a week early before our wild card and get Cash in? I could, have thought about some of the Fulham defenders, like facing Sheffield United. Obviously, that's possibly a clean sheet there. But I just fancy Cash with the attacking upside and the, ceiling that Cash has got, the potential ceiling, that I, could see a nice haul in there. A 17-pointer would be lovely. Of course, I did, own Cash. Game 1, I benched him, and it was a right decision away to Newcastle. Obviously got the -1. Then game week 2, I was a bit, hot and cold, basically. I was a bit cold feet on Matty Cash, whether he'd be nailed enough, because they had the likes of Diego Carlos, they had Pau Torres, who they just signed, who can fit in at right back. They had, of course, Konzo can do the same. So I was a bit like, there's a lot of Villa defenders that I'm not sure Cash, wasn't playing much at all last season, Cash, and hasn't really hit the heights since that 21-22 season. But, yes, fair enough, Matty Cash. He comes in with a 17-pointer in game week 3. I mean, I took him out in game week 2 for Henry, who, to be fair, that week got a clean sheet away to Fulham. But then the next week, Henry concedes against Palace, and I just see that 17-pointer from Cash, and I just thought, why, Cash? You're trying to kill me, man. Like, that's just no need. Dirty Cash. But yeah, it was not good. And then obviously, the weeks prior to that, he'd scored an own goal, so that made me feel a bit better about myself, really. But Henry was so unlucky to get injured, and now, of course, I've gone back there. So Matty Cash, it's been emotional. Let's hope that this is a decision that ends up paying off this week, but because I was so sure that Matty Cash was going to do bits and get a goal, get an assist away to Newcastle. It didn't exactly go to plan for Matty Cash, though. Concedes 5, misses a sitter, gets -1. Not exactly ideal. So when Gabriel did come on, I was like, I'm fuming. Cash is going to be such a good differential pick. And then when Newcastle hit 5 later that day, I was like, thank Lord that Gabriel came on in the end. But look, at the same time, it's still annoying about Gabriel. Mark Guerhi, he was my kind of duty differential in game week 1. I'd always go for 1 each season. I mean, last season it was Kulusevski in that Southampton home fixture, 13-pointer, thank you very much. The season before that, when Watford were in the Premier League, I know it feels like a while ago that, Ismail Assar, home to Aston Villa, got himself a cheeky goal. Loving that, for sure. And this season it was Mark Guerhi. As uninspiring and boring as that is, I just couldn't find amazing differentials that,
outside of some of the 4.5 defenders, were really tickling my fancy this season, because with the way the pricing is, the way the fixtures have kind of fallen, the template is looking really strong this year, and it's a lot of similar players from last season's template. So I just had to go with it. But Mark Guerhi, I liked the Palace's fixtures, especially with another rotating 4.5 defender. And Guerhi was just a bit of set piece threat last season. Did pop up with a goal, I think, away to Leeds, and I just liked him. It's a shame I went for him over Anderson, because he ended up getting the 3 bonus points, and so did Mitchell, got 2 bonus points. So literally, other than Ward, could have picked any other Palace defender, would have got more. But I'll absolutely run with those 6 points. And a lot of defences, FPL teams in Game Week 1 didn't get those clean sheets. So to be honest, I'm pretty happy to be in that small minority of the clean sheet people. And Mark Guerhi, I'm still very much happy with you, my friend. Those 6 points, very nice differential, only about 1.9% owned. So lovely jubbly, Mark Guerhi. And then we had Estupinian, of course, the former Watford boy. I had to have him in my team ahead of a juicy home fixture with Luton. Now, I would have loved the clean sheet, of course. It didn't come in the end, but he has that attacking threat in any given game, whoever the opposition. So that was brilliant to see. Got the assist and, of course, got some additional bonus points. So Estupinian, very, very happy with you, my friend. Then Martinelli, of course, he was a bit differential, only about 14% owned going into Game Week 1, because people were worried about his minutes, with Trossard possibly taking them from him, and obviously with the injury to Gabriel Jesus a few weeks before the season, that meant we thought maybe Havertz could play in that kind of number 9 role. Will that mean Martinelli doesn't play as far forward? Does that take minutes off him? Does Trossard start because of that, etc.? So there was a few doubts over Martinelli, but I was still really liking him for that price, and I think for the start of the season at least, although there's risk later on when there's not as much Champions League until around Game Week 5-6, then it's worth it to just... Martinelli can do more in 70 minutes than someone like Trossard can do off the bench, in my opinion. So it just makes sense. And before, when people had Jesus in their teams, yes, Jesus is pretty nailed, but he's not really an FPL asset that scores loads of goals. He's more of a workman.
Absolutely, Jesus the workman, if you didn't know.
So this is the team for Game Week 2 as follows. We've got Matt Turner in goal. Yes, believe it or not, I switched out Anana and put in my second sub goalie, Matt Turner, for the game tonight, kicking off in about 30 minutes' time. It's Forest, home to Sheffield United, and surely that Sheffield United attack is so toothless enough that these can get some points. I just want a clean sheet, nothing else, right? It's time to make yourself a hero, Matt Turner, and I know that this has always backfired in the past. The likes of Ramsdale sitting on my bench away to Leicester, 13-pointer, and I started 4.0 Danny Ward, and he just let us down all the time. But I feel that this Sheffield United team is so bad going forward that surely should come good. And I think Spurs looked really good from an attacking perspective last week, and although Onana can pick up some save points, I'm hoping that logical decision comes out trumps this time. And Turner confirmed to start by FPL Heisenberg, so that's good to hear. Then we also, was it Heisenberg or was it Raptor? I can't remember. The back three though, Gabriel. Yes, I know Gabriel. It's a bit of a topic in the community right now, but we've gone for him away to Palace, and I can see a Gabriel bullet header coming. I just feel it in my bones. But yeah, hopefully Gabriel will start. I mean, look, I think it was a weird tactical decision by Arteta to not start him, but I still feel he is more likely to start now more than ever, especially now with Timber picking up an injury. So hopefully he slots right back in and gets a bullet header. As I mentioned, he's got that set piece threat, and the great thing is that Palace are not great from set pieces, so hopefully that's a nice marriage. And you will see there the new addition. Yes, believe it or not, I made a transfer. Absolutely groundbreaking stuff. I was so set on rolling the transfer ahead of Game Week 2 and then having 2 for Game Week 3, because then it was going to basically enable me to make the moves I wanted to make. Right, I had it all planned out. I had a little screenshot of my transfers for Game Week 3. I was going to do Estupinian to Chilwell and Salah to Maddison. Well, that's gone in the bin, because now I'm going to struggle to get those players, because now I'm only going to have 1 free transfer in Game Week 3, as everyone else is going to have 2, because most people have rolled. But you always say fixture week is linked, and I'm sorry, Matty Cash, and I went on about Matty Cash in the Llama FPL Casual stream on Thursday night, and it's ironic, I know, but I just got cold feet about 20 minutes before deadline when I came back from being at the Watford game. I was like, oh, is Matty Cash actually nailed? Because Konza can play there at right back. They could have players like Luca Dean come in. and start. They could have Pau Torres start. Obviously, Mings is now out injured, but they've got Konza, they've got Pau Torres, they've got options in that Aston Villa team. So I just felt that Cash was not nailed enough. And yes, okay, he had a great fixture at home to Everton, but I'd rather a player I know is going to start, and I'd rather a defence that I know could do better. Now, of course, 5 goals is a bit knee-jerky to take out Cash straight away, and I've probably bottled it a little bit there. But I still believe this weekend I've got more faith that Henry outscores Cash. Now, let's see if that does backfire. The good thing is, of course, this is a free transfer, so I've not taken a hit, so at least it doesn't cost me in that respect. Let's just see if it costs me points-wise. But I just fancied Henry because he looked really good, I thought, at home to Spurs. Tough fixture, but he was so attacking. Much like Chilwell, he's bombing forward all the time and got that assist for that Whistler goal and just looked really threatening. And I just looked at Brentford's fixtures and I was like, I can't miss out on that. And although there's a bit of concern with Flecken coming in, obviously we don't know how good Brentford are going to be this season defensively, but I think Henry will sort himself out, and as I say, he's got that attacking threat that I really do like. I'm not sure Cash has really done that for a long time. It's been a couple of seasons till he's delivered since then, and he's not really been at the same level since. And as I say, will he start? We're not 100% sure. So I think Henry's just a better 4.5. So I've gone from a 4.5 to a 4.5. Yes, exactly not what we want to be doing, to be honest. But as I say, fix the weakest link, and yeah, okay, I could take a -4 next week to get in the Chelsea boys, to get in the Tottenham boys, which, to be honest, I am worried about not owning right now. But I'm just going to give it one more week, because you never know, right? We could look at this Chelsea game against West Ham and see that Chelsea weren't what we thought they would be. Maybe they just wanted to be up for that Liverpool game. And we could see that Spurs game, this week against, interesting Manchester United side. And if United win that game and Spurs look not that great, then maybe we could, have second thoughts. However, I feel like Henry is always going to be attacking that system. It's a new system at Chelsea, it's a new system at Brentford, at Tottenham. So Chelsea and Tottenham, new systems, they might be different in the second week, we'll have to see. But I do feel that Fulham are pretty toothless. Jimenez, I'm not inspired by, and Mitrovic, not starting these days. So I'm hoping for a clean sheet, but then if he can get an attack return on top of that, then beautiful. And he's nice differential. I've seen actually now a few people actually with Cash in their team. So if I thought Cash was differential with 7.6% ownership, Henry's even less. I think he's around about 4% ownership. So hopefully my guy Rico brings home the bacon, and much like Thierry Henry gets me the FPL points.
Yeah, that didn't age well, did it? Not at all. The Cash 17 points from Game Week 3. Yeah, Cash has been a great option, I have to admit it. And that's why he's come in this week for the injured Estupinian. But Henry getting injured for the season, I mean, you just can't write this thing. So Cash, you're back in, Cash in the attic. He's always been there. He's just been hiding. I didn't sell him. I just, put him away for a bit. And now he's back out and he's ready to play. So hopefully, Matty Cash, big haul against Wolves. Of course, I've got Udogie there, Trippier. Just talks to themselves. They're good attacking assets. Luton away, surely a clean sheet. I mean, Carlton Morris, he's all right. He's all right, but come on, he's all right. Clean sheet, fingers crossed. And then Trippier away to West Ham. Don't mind that fixture. I mean, obviously West Ham probably score, but Trippier's so attacking. And then Fernandes and Mbumo up against each other. Who's the battle of the midfielders? Who's going to win? They're probably going to both blank because you know what it's like. Both United and Brentford are not in good form, but hopefully both penalty takers, both get goals. Son, captaincy, yeah. I'm willing to go against Haaland. It's probably the first time I think this season I've gone against Haaland. But away to Luton. I know it's the early kickoff, but you've got to make an exception to that rule when it's Luton. Luton Town have defended awfully this season. I'm not just saying that as a Watford fan. They genuinely have conceded in every single game, and they conceded 2 to Burnley. Yes, Burnley. So I would say Son, he's so attacking right now. He's playing in that number 9 spot as it stands. Richarlison could do well, maybe. Ex-Watford player, of course. He'll have a bit of motivation. But no, I think Son makes a good captaincy option this week. And obviously it could backfire and it ruins my week, the first game of the game week. But I'm willing to go with the fixture. Maddison also, Luton away. Come on, hopefully he'll cook. I mean, look, Kenilworth Road, it's not always easy, right? They do make it hard. But the quality, I think, still will pay eventually. Mitoma, Liverpool, I don't mind that at all, because Liverpool defensively have still been very suspect. Mitoma scored, obviously, in this game last season in the FA Cup, an absolute wonder goal right at the end. So, yeah, Mitoma, you know, he did blank last week, but he's still a quality player on his day. He can score against anyone. And then Alvarez, big game, obviously, at Arsenal. Double City attack. Maybe that's not an issue. Alvarez is brilliant in form, and Arsenal defensively are still not perfect, I think. So, yeah, Julian Alvarez still hopefully delivers the goods. And then Haaland on the vice-captain. Of course he can score. He scored in both games against Arsenal last season, but I'm willing to go for it. I'm willing to have a little gamble because I'm a pretty safe, boring template manager. And the template's not done too well this season, I've got to say. But hopefully with that team, I can get a green arrow for Game Week 8 going into that wildcard week in Game Week 9. The bench is, of course, Onana. Mark Gay, again, is on the bench. I know, he's going to make me pay, I know. But who are you going to bench out of those? You've got penalty takers, you've got great attacking options, and you've got great fullbacks with good fixtures. And so I can't play the less attacking option over any of those. So I can see Forest not scoring and Gay punishing me again, but whatever, you know, whatever. Fabian Schär is also on the bench. I know he scored in midweek, but it was a bit of a, you know, one-off, I think. I don't think he'll score against West Ham, and West Ham I could see scoring in that game, so I think it's just enough to go with one Newcastle defender. And then Mubama obviously did not play as the third forward. So yeah, hope you have enjoyed my FPL team selection for Game Week 8. Do smash a like on the video, comment your locked-in team for this game week. What team have you gone for? What transfers have you made? And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.